Welcome, GrayMatter leader, to our unpublished podcast for GrayMatter career coaching. I'm so thrilled, as always, that you've chosen to tune in and invest some of your time with us today, that you're engaging with us in another intriguing conversation that I hope will move you into the leading edge of your life and business as a leader. At GrayMatter, we believe you have the power to activate the part of your brain scientifically known as gray matter. And in so doing, you'll take yourself out of autopilot thinking and behavior. Now, as always, my name is Jeanette. I'm the head of sales and communication here at GMC and also the host for today's leadership conversation. I'm joined by my special and lovely co-host and our founder of GMC, BJ Gray herself. And before I bring her out, today I want to let you know that we're talking about massive action. That's right, massive action. It's all about ending this year and starting the new year fully loaded, as I like to say. And this is essentially a continuation of our last conversation. If you got a chance to listen to that, then you know what I'm talking about. We started sharing ideas and hacks of how you can wrap up what has been a seriously challenging year for many of us, and how you can take your hard-learned lessons, the pain or the frustration or the disappointment, or even the fear that you may have experienced throughout this year, and not necessarily make sense of it, but make it work in your favor instead of against you as you move into the new year. And for some of us, that involves, figuring it out to the T and making it sound logical. But for some of us, it's more just about figuring out a way of being able to create an internal resolution with what happened, what went wrong, what we didn't like, what we could have done better, who we could have gotten along better with, and just creating an atmosphere where we're able to move on in a healthy way. This is what BJ was teaching us last time. This is what she coached us through, and she walks us through a very specific, very simple, but super profound exercise that we'll briefly touch on just now as I bring her out. So if you didn't get a chance to listen to that, please go back, listen to that, then come back, and let's jump into massive action today. BJ Gray, are you here with me?
I am. Hello, Jeanette, and hello, everyone. How are you?
We are awesome.
All
Thank you for
right.
being with us today. I know today we're talking about massive action. I'm stoked. I feel like after this, I need to go to the gym or do something massive. Um, so before I let you jump in and walk us through what we're going to be learning, I wanted us to pause for a bit because I know we started the actual conversation last time where you walked us through how we can best prepare for a new year, whether it has been a greatest year of our life or
Yeah, how do
not
we
so great
reset?
like 2020. How do we
Yeah.
reset? And you walked us through this forgiveness process. So in your opinion, once we go through the forgiveness process and we reset, taking massive action is what should come next, correct?
Yeah, it's taking massive action for the after you reset, you're going to set up some new goals or new results that you want for 2021. And so um, how do you really achieve those goals, right? So you're ready to get started, you're motivated, and you need to rewire your brain and you need to have a plan so that you can actually do the hard work, achieve the results, and not stop. Because so many of us drop our goals or the things that we want to achieve in the new year. We just drop them after a couple months and we don't continue. So, what does it really take to achieve that goal? Well, it takes massive action. It's a concept that I want to talk about today. And where we fall short of being able to take massive action and just kind of the tactical parts to massive action.
Beautiful. So talking about a plan, before we jump into the meat of this idea of having a plan as we get into the new year, whether it's next year, whichever other year, is something I'm learning from you is so important. And I think this is why you came up with the idea of having power hour coaching sessions that we're offering everyone who tunes in, everyone who listens to this. Do you want to talk a bit more about that and what it
Yeah, I
is?
do, because I think that the two unpublished podcasts that we've been working on, the one last week about resetting and this one about, achieving your goals and taking massive action. I mean, a lot of people, they'll understand the concepts you and I are talking about listening to us in these 20-minute segments. However, if they want help, if they want me to help them really dive in 1 hour and get them ready for next year, we'll do a little scrubbing of this past year and reset them. And then we'll work on what they want to obtain next year. And I'll help them get a plan in place. And I call it my power hour session. And we can, I can teach some of my core concepts in that hour, and as well as devise a plan for them for 2021. So I'm offering this right now in December and January to anyone who just needs a quick support system to get themselves ready for 2021.
And why do you think this matters?
Because I think when we have something to look forward to, something that sounds exciting that we get to, learn about, challenge ourselves, it's motivating. It gives us hope. When you kind of go into a new year, or you go into a new second half of the year, whenever you want to reset your goals, when we don't have anything to look forward to, or we don't have anything to challenge us, we just kind of fall flat. We don't grow. We don't have that growth mindset. And I think just doing this exercise gives you a little bit of motivation, because we all know when January hits, the holidays are over, winter is in session, and it's kind of a drab time of year. But if we have something kind of ready to go that we're going to want to achieve, then we're motivated. We have some energy that's just kind of in us. And I just think it's just a nice time of year to really stay engaged with yourself.
Hmm. Wonderful. So, coming back to our topic for today around massive action, how do you go about this? Where do you normally start?
Well, I normally start, me, I'm going to do the two sides of it. There's always a mental mindset, mental fitness side to this, and there's always the plan, right? The tactical
Hmm.
plan. And really, the definition of massive action is to continue to work on something until you get the result you want, until there's something completed. So it's a time management strategy for focusing, basically. And this way, you don't abandon the work midway through, you don't get distracted doing the work. And the first thing you need to do, though, is understand that your brain is going to resist doing hard work. So, right away, when we set up a goal or set aside something that we really want to achieve, it's so natural for our brain, when it's on autopilot, when we're using our primitive part of our brain, to say, I don't want to do hard work. I'm not going to, put in this energy and this effort. So the first thing you need to understand is overcoming your brain's resistance to achieving this goal. You're overcoming the desire to want to do this hard work.
Hmm. And that makes a lot of sense. And this is probably why we normally ditch our New Year resolution soon after.
Yeah, it's so true. And I'm not an expert at this. I have a lot of my own challenges when it comes to focusing, especially this year in 2020. I've really struggled achieving a few of my big goals. And I'm going to have to really practice what I preach right now, personally, I think, turning the corner for next year, get my brain focused and be more productive. For me, I want to launch a online boot camp for employees and teach them how to have mental fitness and be better leaders. And I've been working on this from home the past 9 months, as we all have in the pandemic.
Mm.
And I've been very distracted versus when I go to the office. And my
Mhm.
stamina has been uh, not as strong, I would have to say.
Yeah.
And I think it's because of all the outside stuff going on in the world, but also because I'm just not in my element where I can really turn off the distractions. And so if
Hmm.
I'm really going to get this online boot camp course launched in the first quarter of 2021, I'm really going to have to block out the time and focus to achieve it.
Yeah. And I'm so glad that you said that because, well, it's actually really great to hear you saying that you've been struggling with your stamina. And we talked about this, especially early in the year when we were in like serious massive lockdown in Italy, and I was sharing with you, I feel like my creativity is like being constricted. And you told me actually that's pretty normal and it's quite possible that you're feeling like that. So it's great to see that um even though we may still be doing what's required of us, the fact that we've experienced this year has had an impact, and it's okay if we feel like we're not performing at the best level that we could be. But the question is, um, how do we get? Because I know most people, they will find excuses, right? For
Mm.
majority of the people, it will be, oh yeah, I can't do it, or like you like to say, I'm too busy or something
Yeah,
happened. But for those
we
of
trick
us, mhm,
ourselves. Totally. We trick ourselves. We think that we have a to-do list and that we're so busy. That's one of the traps is we find ourselves saying we're too busy, but we also think
yes,
we're being super productive because we check off the boxes on our to-do list. But we're really not achieving um, the result we really want, right? We never get to the meat of our goal. We never get to the meat of the work that it takes to achieve that goal. So I think
mm,
it's easy to be a very busy, type A, productive person, but are you really digging deep and being deliberate with your time so that you learn something new, try something, achieve something that you haven't achieved? And that's where we can play, yeah, I guess a trick on our brain. So, how do you begin paying attention to your brain tricking you and clean up that mess and be more deliberate with your time than just being busy and getting a lot of stuff done?
so if I'm hearing you right, what you're saying to me is a great goal for me to have in 2021 is something that involves me um, learning something new or doing something new, not necessarily just having or accomplishing a lot of small, normal stuff that I've been doing so far. Is that what you're saying?
I think so because the reward comes from really up leveling yourself, right? Really like
Mhm.
growing your own skills. And I think I feel accomplished when I do a lot of things and I'm organized, but I don't feel so accomplished when I haven't gone and tried something new and failed at it maybe and learned from it. And then I just don't feel stronger. And I think
Mhm.
like last year in January, right away, I went to and I learned two different ways of coaching. I learned agile coaching and I learned outward mindset coaching, and I got certified in both of them. And I felt so accomplished right away. By March, I was already done with two different concepts of coaching. That's what I
Mhm.
mean. You got to kind of go and challenge yourself. I had to take tests to do that. I had to, think differently than the way I think about coaching. And same with this online course. Like, I know how to coach and teach people concepts, but I don't know how to do an online course. I'm learning technology. I'm learning how
Mhm.
to speak differently on camera. So it's those
Yes.
kinds of things. Like, do something that gets you out of your comfort zone.
And that's the key word there, getting out of my comfort zone. So, comfort zone is the thing we really want to avoid in 2021. So,
Hmm.
if we pick the list of the thing or the things that we want to achieve, um, what's next?
Well, I recommend you only pick one or two things because you're never going to accomplish more than three. People just don't
Okay.
really have that much bandwidth to do more than two or three things. So I'm picking just two. I'm picking this online
Okay.
course and
Hmm.
continuing to roll out online courses. So once I get one under my belt, I feel like it might be easier. And
Hmm.
I'm also going to pick something personal, which is a new fitness regime. I mean, as you know, I am an avid runner, an avid
Yeah.
swimmer,
Yeah.
but I don't push my body to do the painful weightlifting or,
Hmm.
you know, building my muscles and my keeping calcium in my bones. And I am
Hmm.
going to hire a trainer in
Hmm.
2021 who's going to challenge me to like work every single muscle in my body. so that I hurt. Like I'm going to get out of my comfort zone, even with my workout routine. So I'm looking
Okay.
forward to pain in my brain and pain in my body next year. But I am going to set up that and plan it and be deliberate with how I achieve it.
And so once we pick the goals, the next thing is to be deliberate with the planning of it.
Exactly. And this
Okay.
requires um, you know, set using your calendar, blocking off
Mm-hmm.
time that you know you can focus. Maybe it's
Mm-hmm.
in hour chunks, maybe it's in 2 hour chunks. Turn your phone off, turn your email off your computer, go into a place that you know you won't be interrupted or distracted, and put the time in and get what you can get done on that task that needs to be done in that 2 hour time. Maybe it won't be perfect, maybe it won't all get done, but you're going to start putting your energy into something completely focused. And I have to tell you, when I really do this, when I really block some time off, an hour or 2 hours, I get so much done. It's incredible. So it really is about using your calendar for blocking off time to work and block off time for free time. Block off that time where you're just going to scroll through the news on your phone or your emails or internet shop, but also block off the time to be deliberate with the tasks that you need to do and have no distractions. And it's hard work. It's the time that's going to take hard work. So you're going to have to think about the thoughts that are going to get you into that hard work too.
So let's talk about hard work here and massive action. Hard work is often associated with like a negative vibe, right? How,
Mhm.
how do you see hard work?
I see hard work in a sense that um, you don't know, and you don't know what you don't know, so you have to go learn, and that takes some trying and failing, for lack of better words. Like
Mhm.
it takes iteration, and a
Yes.
lot of us want instant gratification, so iteration feels
Yes.
like hard work.
Yes.
And so hard work is about knowing that you're going to hit roadblocks, that you're not going to know, and that you might fail. And how do you accept that failure? Are you afraid of it, or are you thinking it's going to put you on the right path to the next step?
Love it. Okay, which leads me to my next question. Now let's talk about failure. How do you see failure? Because that's another big thing, right? Like everyone is so afraid of failing, and failure has been almost demonized, like it's a bad thing. I love the way you approach it. I love the advice that you give around failure. Talk to us about this.
So for me, let's just think about this. Failure is just having to deal with an emotion that's like you're disappointed, right? An emotion of being disappointed or a sad emotion. So, failure, if you really just look at it, it just means it's something you tried and it didn't work, and you feel in your body, you feel uncomfortable. You feel like you're disappointed, you're sad, you're exhausted, maybe. That's all it is. So, when I think about failure, it's really just dealing with my own judgment of myself, and
Mhm.
and so when I can wrap my head around that it's just an emotion in my body and it's just me judging myself, and that I think about failure as a stepping stone to what's going to be put me on the right path to success or accomplishing something, then I like failure. I like to fail forward, and
Mhm.
it doesn't scare me. And here's the other thing that I kind of wrap into this concept of failure. For me, and it goes into this agile coaching concept that I learned last year or at the beginning of 2020. It's like you need to take steps and try things and fail fast so that you can move on to a new direction. So you don't work on something for a really long time and you find out that it didn't work. And so it's like kind of a scrum way of working. You work on something, you learn from it, and you move on. So to me, failing is also, like I said, the way to get there in a better, more constructive way. It's you need to fail to find the success.
Because it helps me know what works and what doesn't.
Hmm.
So it's almost like feedback.
Yeah, it's a feedback. You want that feedback right away.
And I want that feedback, of course. Okay. So in the process of success is failure.
Totally. And let me give you an example. This online course, I'm going to go back to it. I started
Yes.
out, I sketched it out, I put the
Mhm,
lessons that were going to be learned. And
mhm,
then when I looked at it, and I put all this time into that, I did put a lot of time into that whole outline and kind of started grabbing all of the talking points and putting the lessons together. I flashed it by a friend who used to coach with me, and she said that's just too much. And I had to like
mhm,
go back and reconcept the entire course and then break it
mhm.
down in a different way and then rebuild certain parts of it. So yeah, that's a bummer, right? And it
Yes.
wasted maybe a month of time, but at least I got to this place where it may not have worked for when I rolled it out, and now maybe I have a better product.
I see. Yeah. Okay. And so when we circle back to the idea of massive
Mhm.
action does include failure. It does include hard work, which also tells me that there has to be a lot of focus, kind of holding everything together. Because when you say taking massive action on my chosen goal, you want me to maintain a certain level of discipline and concentration on just that one thing until it gets done without quitting.
Yes, just one thing until you accomplish it. Work on one thing until you accomplish it. Hmm.
How do we get our brains to do that? you know, what are some hacks and tips you can give us? Because I think this just comes back to what you talk about when you coach on mental fitness. Because I guess to the level that I am mentally fit, then I'm able to sustain this until I get the result
Hmm.
I want, right?
Hmm. Hmm. The hack is basically using your prefrontal cortex where you can plan and you can honor your
Hmm.
plan and
Hmm.
set aside that time that's uninterrupted and know that it's
Hmm.
going to be sort of uncomfortable. Like, okay, so here's one thing I do as a hack. I actually play a song in the background when I have my focus time. I play a song on repeat. I pick like my artist of the week that I'm listening to over and over. For me lately, I'm stuck on Chris Stapleton,
Hmm.
and I play Nathaniel Ratcliffe, and I play those songs on repeat, one song over and over, and it gets my brain in this like state of where I can focus. And then, like I said, I turn off everything, all my notifications. I turn my phone off, I turn my email off, and I just really work on one thing. So, is it writing that one lesson? Is it making one video? Is it creating a webinar, the outline of a webinar? It's the one thing that I said I'm going to do in that hour or 2 hour block of time.
That's fantastic. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh
They
my
say that
goodness.
um,
Mhm.
Playing Beethoven is also like that kind of music is also very,
Yes.
um, it helps you focus because it has no beat to it.
Yep.
It's actually something they give to play for dogs. Like if you ever to leave your house and you leave your dog at home, if you put on
Uh-huh.
some Beethoven, um, then the dog will be relaxed and stay calm.
Awesome. Here's
Hmm.
a random question. In terms of the prefrontal cortex you mentioned earlier, and the ability to plan and even take massive action, can you help us make the connection, like in a layman's way, of what's the benefit of me specifically working on that part of my brain that's going to help me then take massive action and also prioritize planning?
Well, you have to work on that part of your brain because that's the brain that's been there since the caveman days, and we've evolved. We're humans now that are um, we're so much more sophisticated than that primitive brain functions as. The primitive brain was to seek pleasure, avoid danger, and do things
Hmm.
as easy, save your energy. But
Hmm.
we're so much more evolved, so that primitive brain will constantly tell you to quit, to stop, and to change. And so that's why we have to overcome that. And we have this prefrontal, this beautiful part of our brain that probably cavemen weren't evolved enough to understand, but we do now with science and whatnot. And when you really become deliberate and use this part of your brain and you don't deviate from it, and you go into it with, this is going to be uncomfortable, this is going to be hard, but I'm going to be okay, then you're setting yourself up to get some real stuff done. And it feels good when you get the real stuff done. The hard work pays off.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And it's the prefrontal cortex that actually aids us in this.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. It's the one that's
Wonderful.
going to tell you to go the extra mile. It's the one that's going to
Yes.
give you the ability to put the time in.
So taking massive action is directly linked to activating that part of our brain.
Totally, totally. So this is what I want to tell people. You've reset for 2021. Go write down 2 things that you want to achieve. What result do you want to get, right? What result do you want to have in 2021? And then, like I said in the last podcast, write down all the obstacles that are going to appear when you try to achieve that result or achieve that goal. And then write down all the steps that it's going to take to overcome that obstacle. And that's your action plan. And that's what you put on your calendar. Each one of those steps goes into a slot on your calendar. I like to do 2 of them a week, 2 to 3 of them a week. And then I focus on that task until it's accomplished. And then I move on. And that is called massive action. Planning it ahead of time, overcoming your primitive brain, picking up the obstacles that you have to overcome to achieve that part of the goal, and then you start to create some good results. And I can help you devise this plan if need.
Absolutely. That's why we have the Power Hour session.
Exactly.
Thank you, BJ Gray. This has been fantastic. I look forward to our next conversation.
All right. Thanks, Jeanette.